boredom that I think I wanted them to have, like to look like, my God, I've been sitting here in the same position for, so long, please hurry up. The only thing that just occurred to me looking at it again that I don't think anybody even realizes is in the bottom right corner are actually the big toes of a huge foot. I thought, what if it's like she's a powdered wigged woman, but then she's got these big feet sticking out from under. I want there, in some of them, to be like a little joke that you can see, like the big nose on the young girl. The breast that looks like it's just, like half of a grapefruit stuck onto someone's chest. I hadn't done too many characters that were men. It wasn't as challenging as I thought. What made it easier in these pictures that was harder in earlier work was that they're just sitting there kind of frozen in time and there's not really anything emotional that you're getting out of that character other than they're just sort of sitting there posing and they look like who they are. These were not really done in any kind of reverential way towards art history. If anything, I was showing how, not little I care about it, but how it's just another thing that can influence me, along with television and along with cheap magazines. It's not any more relevant to my time than any of that other stuff. Usually when I go to a particular store, it's one particular thing in mind that, for a character.
Yeah, see, that would be great. Tigress lady. There's the leopard lady. Oh my God. Oh my God. More wacky pants. I mean, this is like the wacky pants section or something. Bob Mackie, no way. Oh my God, okay. Well, we might be inspiring a whole new series right here. Rich hippie ladies. I gotta be discriminating somewhere, I guess. I'm really made out, really.
It's gonna be too heavy? I think it's okay. That one's heavy, this one's light. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Often I've thought, I can't imagine really doing this my whole life, my whole career. And in the late 80s and 90s, I was experimenting more with gradually taking myself out of the picture, where I was just sort of a reflection in something. And then eventually just using a lot of mannequins and dolls to suggest that there's actually a living person in the picture, but it was, in fact, all still life. A lot of that work, people just assume that I'm still there, that, my eyes are the eyes that you see through the mask, or that the hand in the foreground was actually my hand, as if I still have to be in the picture somehow. And I wasn't in this whole group of work. It was much harder than using myself because when I use myself, I can play so that every single picture is completely different. Oh, that's nice. I wanted to make pictures that were really big, really in your face. Before I even shot anything, I thought, I want to make a show of really big pictures, because you see male artists doing it all the time, even when they're not even well known. They just make a picture as big as the entire wall of the gallery. It just seemed like such a big egotistical thing, and I thought, I don't know that many women that really do that. And I thought, damn it, I'm gonna do that. make these really big pictures. So, yeah, that was kind of part of it too. See you guys.
I kind of view these exhibitions sometimes as not the end of something, but a beginning of some sort. Like you see them for the first time sometimes, you know, you see them out of their context and you can think about them differently, and then you start again. The activity of spinning, which is part of a number of those pieces at the Whitney show, like the spinning room, that piece was developed about the same time that I began the early spinning tapes where I would spin. I'm in this building called the Broadway Building, and it's a building that USC had that they gave students, graduate students. And it was a completely empty building, and I was the only graduate student that actually took, the rest of them stayed in the studio down by the campus. I moved up to this Broadway building, which is like 7 floors, and it was the induction center for World War II in Vietnam. And it was a 7-story building completely empty, and I had this whole building to do whatever I wanted in. I think it's called face painting white line. I don't remember how the idea came to me. You spend your time in a kind of ball of ideas or something, and maybe it comes to you all at once, or maybe you get a glimmer and then you develop an idea. This one, I had done, just prior to this, I'd whipped a wall with paint. The paint was a combination of motor oil and paint. Although I think I really wanted to paint the whole window black. I didn't go that far. That was a plan, but it didn't happen. Ran out of paint, and that was it. I didn't go back and finish it. The window stayed like that for years. And the tapes were sort of, in the beginning, were very much about me as the artist, just using whatever in the room, the architecture, the doors, very minimal. With pieces like in Sailor's Mead, I cover my head with like tape or butter or something. Like the first thing that happens is to cover the face. Where the other ones where I'm spinning, it's me, Paul McCarthy, making an artwork. It's, you see my face. It's clear who I am. And these other ones, the persona happens, and the persona usually started with a kind of mask or some sort of costume. 1, 2, 3, 4. What am I doing? 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I was kind of a class clown, and so there was always a sort of performative doing like a kind of making people laugh or something like that, you know, when I was in school. I've never really equated that with the performance work that I began to do in the 60s.
Okay. Okay. What I don't want to think about you. Just try to listen. I don't try to listen to what I have to say. Don't pay much attention. Try to stick with it. Try to listen. Try to listen. Try to move. Try to think about oh no, I got interference. Try not to think.
The one thing I was really, as a kid, I was really involved with constructing, building like huts, children's huts and kids' huts, you know, and tree houses and underground. Like I spent, that was a big part of my, I think. I grew up where you could do that pretty easily because there was a rural area right where we lived, so it was easy to build huts, and there were always subdivisions being built around so you could get the wood that you needed. So there's a whole thing about constructing architecture, I think. '87, I got asked to do a piece in a cable station, and I did Family Tyranny.
He hasn't done what he was supposed to do. He's been a very bad boy. Hey, wear this. Wear that, boy. That's what you need to wear. You wear that.
It was also at that point that I knew Mike Kelly, but didn't know him really well. We'd kind of met a few times, and I asked him to be in this piece.
You little sucker, right?
I liked his work. I thought there was a connection, so he just came to the studio. It was all improvised, the whole thing.
No, hey, boy.
I remember at the time, you know, the having children and then seeing myself almost standing in my, you know, in a relationship with one of my kids or both of them, standing in front of them, being in the same posture and saying the same thing that my father had said to me. Although it seems to be about the conditioning of children, it's actually more of sort of that we are that. We're conditioned into our reality. I mean, it was kind of like struggling and thinking about those things. And then this piece happened, and then just sort of extrapolating that into who I am and, you know, breaking out of a conditioned attitude.
Calm down here, calm down.
Time to go to school, Dad.
No, son, go to school. Don't leave your dad here alone.
My dad and I had an ongoing relationship since I was a kid. We always did things together, from playing baseball to skiing to building the house to helping him as a kid, kind of playing and making art when he was in the garage. It was kind of like I always felt like that was a part of my world. So it was not there's never a moment where we feel like it's not working together as much as we're doing something together. And it was kind of like, seemed right that we were supposed to kind of create this madhouse thing.
Oh, yes! Oh, yes!
Since I was kind of young, I had like a fascination with the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. I talked to him about making a pirate movie and kind of turning this ride into a movie.
Captain!
Yes, sir. Hi, sir!
And then one thing kind of turned into another, and then we started sitting down and talking about it, and it unfolded into something that was kind of more than what I thought it would do. It always seemed like what Hollywood is trying to do with a movie, but then can never do it.
You know, as artists, you think in terms of a space, like an object goes in a space. So it's much more likely for me to think in terms of the setting for the video as a space where it's presented. I don't think single channel where you sit and face it. In these settings, you end up with 20 channels in the same room. They become like big paintings. Sometimes I think this is closer to painting than it is to filmmaking, which thinks narrative, where the painting constructs maybe a narrative in the frame, but it's a different type of narrative than what we think of as film narrative. And that's the difference between making art and making entertainment, is I don't care. It's not the same situation. It's the explorations of ideas. I'm not trying to satisfy an audience. And that's where this thing where art is always equated with this audience, and what is your responsibility to the audience? My responsibility is to the ideas. Some of it really is just about letting something go and then finding something in there. And then some of it is really about directing it and knowing pretty long ahead that that's what's going to happen. It's the process of making the sculpture begins to be interesting in the obsession to get it right. It's all bad. Okay. Sure.
With repairing the sound,
Just
yeah, we attached it.
that's right. It broke.
Yeah, that wasn't what we were hoping.
That's okay. That's totally okay.
Okay.
I'm actually interested in Greek sculpture, this notion that the god is endowed in the sculpture itself. Sculpting not for the point of making a shape, but for the point of like as if you're stroking an arm. I was asked to do a piece for the World's Fair, and I came up with this idea of making inflatable 80-foot Pinocchio sitting on a stack of books. Instead of having a Pinocchio head, I put a cube head on it. I was really into the aesthetic of this vinyl full of air. I mean, there is something about being able to make this giant object that is ephemeral in a way, in that it blows up, it's full of air, kind of exists there for a short period of time, and then kind of makes an image for people and then is gone. A lot of what goes on is a lot about the practice of making art. My work seems to be about tearing down, opening up conventions, I guess. These individuals that affect the world, in one way, they're real. In another way, I saw them like Mickey Mouse or Santa Claus, like some sort of fabricated sculpture. Pieces recycle into other pieces, pieces get used because they're in the studio. Like the Hummels go on for years. The Hummel comes from Bavaria. It's a ceramic figurine that's mass-produced. Lots of people collect them. Some people had sent me Hummels over the years. So I would end up with these Hummels. And one day I just decided to make one. And then it kind of clicked as a forum that I would sort of just say, make this Hummel, or let's make this Hummel. And then it would start forming, and then it would begin to abstract. And it just keeps going. You know, there's always 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 going on, you know, at different scales. I'm not really at this point going out of my way to go pick ones. It doesn't seem necessary, you know, like any of them will do. Something to act on, something to alter and to shift, like this way of working through ideas. Question is how far to
Smash it in there?
just take that sucker and like that.
I think that's maybe too long.
Yeah, but we
keep
pounded
going
all the
to
way
that.
in. Also what's going on with the Hummel is the nature of the sculpture itself, which is this idea of purity and cleanliness. I mean, I kind of believe that hygiene is the religion of fascism.
I think you just do it.
Just do it. You're going to have to hold the head, but do you think between two people and myself, the sculpting may go on for weeks. And it's always about adjusting this, adjusting that, adjusting this.
More?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm hitting foam.
Keep going then.
It's very spontaneous, and I know that there are people watching, and the fact that they're watching is a reason to do it. And it's kind of like that moment where, yeah, let's see, all this time has gone into something, and then you destroy it. You destroy the effort. Okay. I can't tell you why. The why and the answers to why it's being done, it's in the work. It's not in what we say here. Because, and certainly not what we say here when we try to answer a question in 20 minutes to something that is intentionally and purposefully entangled.
Next time on Art 21, Art in the 21st Century.
It's something that's been a big part of my work, is trying to understand systems.
I try to find transcendent moments within my work.
I'm always interested in things that we don't call art.
It would be nice if everyone in the world could agree on a symbolic system.
To learn more about Art 21, Art in the 21st Century, and its educational resources, please visit us online at pbs.org. This program was made possible by the National Endowment for the Arts, Agnes Gund, Bloomberg, the Nathan Cummings Foundation, the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts, the Broad Art Foundation, the Korea Foundation, the Horace W. Goldsmith Foundation, and others. A complete list is available from PBS and by contributions to your PBS stations from viewers like you. Thank you.